If you need me, won't you call me tonight? If you're in trouble and you need me tonight, just call.
This was the final Wednesday night residency here at the 2300 Arena for a while. Actually, I guess Collision would be, but the final Dynamite at the 2300 Arena. This is I think the third week that they have had this building packed in, 900 people, whatever it is. And so we end up with another all-star main event tag team match. But this time, we had money on the line. Oh, boy. Yeah, we had $500,000 up for grabs in the all-star 8-man. Was it 8-man? How many people were in there? 10-man? I don't fucking know. There were a lot of people in there. You would think that Tony Khan might have taken something away from the fact that last week's show did record low numbers for Dynamite with another one of these all-star multi-person main event matches, but instead, evidently not, because we got it again here in the main event, only this time with $500,000 on the line. And when it was over, it was all to build to Daniel Garcia joining the Death Riders, the man who tried to do things the right way, and it just didn't work out for him. He kept losing and losing and losing until finally he was corrupted by the evil Jon Moxley, who has convinced him to join the Death Riders, which means the Death Riders have grown by one. We are now officially adding new members to the Death Riders when we should be subtracting from the Death Riders. We are only growing this group now, which is terrible news. And also, Daniel Garcia proceeds to deliver a curb stomp that was supposed to be onto a chair. Darby moved to the right or the left or whatever it was. It was bad enough that they had to redo the spot. This was supposed to be like the big impactful spot where he was going to drive this man face first right down into a steel chair. And then Darby just goes down into the mat. And Garcia is standing there and he's looking at Moxley like, I think we need to redo the spot. So they redid the spot. And then they got it done the right way. And then they fleed, and that is how the show went off the air tonight. You know my thoughts on adding new members to the Death Riders. I am not a fan of it. Daniel Garcia coming out of the end of the show, pulling his hood down to reveal himself to, the most mild reaction that you could possibly ask for. I would say it was funny if it wasn't just kind of deflating, honestly. As a show closing angle, it does beg the question, though, is Chris Statlander going to follow? Because we've had teases of her being recruited by the Death Riders as well. They got their one new male member. We might get a new female member as well to the Death Riders very soon. We also have our AEW World Championship match, now official for All Out, is going to be Hangman Adam Page, and I think we kind of knew this, is what I said last week. Some people thought maybe Kenny Omega would be back in time. We get Omega and Fletcher. They did the angle last week to write him off TV, as we now know. It'll be Hangman Page defending the AEW World Championship in Toronto on September 20th against the Protostar, the TNT champion Kyle Fletcher. They're putting him in a position to challenge for the world title that he will not win. Obviously, it's a big spot for him to be in. It's a big opportunity for him to go out there, show what he can do against the world champion. So that match is now official. Most of the other matches on the show tonight did what I would say was a perfectly serviceable, perfectly average job of building to, some of the other matches that are coming up on the pay-per-view. Nothing that had me terribly excited, though, for this all-out show coming up. We get great matches on every AEW pay-per-view. I can't say that this show that's coming up, as it currently stands, we don't have the final card yet, of course. But the card as it currently stands, there's really nothing about it that jumps out at me, that screams, anything different than I would get from, some of the more recent AEW pay-per-views, and less so, because at least some of those, there were some major stories that they were building to, especially in Texas at All In. And I'm not really feeling that right now for All Out. There's still, a little bit of time left. And the card is not yet complete. But again, I can't say that I'm going to sit here and say that I'm as excited as I was, going into All Out in previous years. They're assembling a card. We've got certain stories playing out, certain feuds playing out, Ricochet and the Gates of Agony and the Hurt Syndicate. Okay. MJF and Mark Briscoe. We're not going to know what the stipulation is for their match until Collision this Saturday. MJF was not on the show tonight. Copeland and Christian against FTR. I don't know what we're doing here. There was no Cope or Christian on the show tonight, but there was a segment with FTR and Stokely Hathaway. I'm still confused as to exactly what this was supposed to be. Other than FTR and Dax Harwood going out there and trying to play tough guy with the big bad fans in the old ECW arena, I have no fucking idea what the point of that segment was. I mean, it was just a bizarre segment that did nothing to further the story with them and Copeland and Christian. So that was very weird. But what more can they do? The tag team titles are not on the line in that match. It's a grudge match, right? Cope and Christian banding together to take on Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. Sure, it'll be a great match, but what more can be done between now and then? It feels like, there's not much left to do at this point. So then you end up with segments like the one that we had on the show tonight. One person who was not on the show, and I do want to address this, his name was never mentioned. He was not on the show tonight. He was not on the show last week, and that is Wardlow. And I asked the question last week, I said, have you seen this man? Where is this man? He made his big return after a year and a half at Forbidden Door. He joined the Don Callis family. He showed up on that first Dynamite coming out of Forbidden Door, but he was fixing his cufflinks and he was adjusting his suit jacket and he was standing like the hired help in the background. What are we doing here? And then we find out this past week, and again, AEW and Tony Khan have not made any kind of official announcement. Generally on this stuff, they don't. They keep it very close to the vest. But there was a report from Fightful. Others have confirmed it, that there is an injury with Wardlow. Wardlow has not wrestled a match yet. He made one appearance at Forbidden Door, and the fear is that he may have torn his pectoral muscle. Which, if he did, depending on the severity of the tear, means we're not going to be seeing Wardlow, at least not in the ring. But we may not be seeing Wardlow for a while. He may go right back on the shelf where he was before. If this guy didn't have bad luck, he would have no luck at all. I don't even know what to say. Like, when I read the report and I saw the Fightful report about this, I had to do a double take because I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like kayfabe news or something. I'm like, injured? He just came back. What has he even done? What do you mean injured? Evidently, he got injured on the first move that he did when he clotheslined Prince Nana at Forbidden Door, after which he hit an F5 on someone, he hit a power bomb on someone, he did some stuff. No indication that he was, injured in any way. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug until it wears off. But apparently that's where the injury took place. The specific nature of it, not yet confirmed, but that was the fear. The fear is that it could be a pec tear. I guess we'll wait to see what the update on that is, but evidently we're not going to be seeing Wardlow for a while. And what that means for, his future, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Because before we saw Wardlow at Forbidden Door, I had completely forgotten about him. He was forgotten. Then he showed up and I was happy to see him, and I was happy for him, and I'm sure he was happy to be back. And then you hear about this, and I feel bad for him, and I wish him well, and happy healing, and hopefully he can come back. At this point, I think the idea of him eventually reaching what I thought his potential would be in AEW, I don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. My hope for him is that he can come back. If he wants to wrestle, he can come back and he can have a productive career. He can have a solid, productive career in the ring. But I think this idea that one day he's going to reach the pinnacle, no pun intended, or, be a top champion in AEW, with each passing year and each injury, and it just seems less and less likely. It kind of, if it's within reach, it gets farther and farther away. And I hate that for him, but that's just the way it is. These are the circumstances that have befallen him. So hopefully he could just come back and just produce for them in some way. I've given up on wondering, what his ceiling is. His ceiling is whatever his ceiling is going to be. But he's got to be healthy in order to be able to get back in the ring and actually do that. So it sucks, but that's why we don't see him on the show now. And we will not be seeing him on the show for a while. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for being with me.
Attention to the sicko in row 4. Look, I know you're excited to be at Dynamite tonight at your first show, but you can't be pulling that thing out. Okay, you got to put that away.
Fuck Triple H.
And don't think I didn't see that sign that you brought that said, I came to see AEW. That's sick. Thank you.
Oh, man. Can't take these people anywhere. Bobbert Reviews with a message for the sickos. Thank you, Bobbert. That is the $40 super chat. Bobbert getting us started early tonight. I love to see it. Thank you, Bobbert. And yes, please keep it in your pants. Nobody wants to see that. Like and subscribe. As you can tell, super chats are open. I'll be reading through your messages here in just a little bit. We got to get into this show first. We got to talk some Dynamite. For better or worse. Yes. I don't know. Joey, he says, why do they keep taking off their pants? I don't know. I don't know. I wish I knew. The American Dragon knows. Bryan Danielson. He is now a full-time official member of the Dynamite broadcast team. We found out about this last week. The only question was, were they going to make it a 4-man team, which would have been ridiculous, or was he going to replace someone? And if you replace someone, that someone would have to be Tony Schiavone, because you're not going to get rid of Excalibur if he's your play-by-play guy. And Taz is great. Why are you going to replace Taz? Tony Schiavone is already doing play-by-play on Collision. Just keep him on Collision, and on Dynamite he can do in-ring interviews, backstage interviews, probably the odd in-ring interview, because backstage is pretty much that's Renee's realm. She's pretty much doing all the backstage stuff, and every now and then Alicia Toot will pop up, but I think she's on her honeymoon right now. So Bryan Danielson came out. I think this is a great move. I thought he was very good tonight. He brings an insight to it as somebody who not only wrestled, but wrestled at a very high level and was a very big name. And it gives him an opportunity, since he's done wrestling forever. No, I mean, forever is a long time, but he's basically, when I say he's retired, I don't mean that we're never going to see him back in the ring again, but he's basically retired. So this gives him an opportunity to still be a part of it in some active way. And I think that, he's able to contribute certain things on commentary that you won't get from a Tony Schiavone. So I like the move, and he did indeed replace Schiavone. So we only have a 3-man booth, which is fine. But as soon as Danielson sat down, what did they do? They trotted out Don Callis for the opening match. So we ended up with a 4-man booth anyway here. And the opening match was Hangman Adam Page, the AEW World Champion, opening the show, one-on-one in what they billed as a grudge match. This was advertised all week as a grudge match against Josh Alexander. Now, it was Hangman, so I was thinking, grudge match. It was Hangman who beat Alexander when Alexander made his debut back in April in the Owen Hart tournament. So this man evidently has been harboring a grudge for about 5 months now. But also on the Hangman side, after what happened to Kenny Omega last week, even though it was Kyle Fletcher really who did it to him, Alexander being a part of the same crew, they called it a grudge match. Fine. Hangman dodged a running crossbody from Alexander, tried a moonsault off the apron into a tombstone, but Alexander slid out into an ankle lock. Page escaped, clotheslined him over the barricade into the front row. And Alexander, though, he got in some brief offense after this, got sent back to the floor. Page hit a slingshot plancha. Alexander created enough space to recover. He dragged Hangman outside and successfully connected with a brainbuster to the apron. He did this while standing on the floor. So it wasn't as devastating as if he were standing on the apron doing that. Later in the match, Alexander fought off a deadeye and a buckshot, countering into rolling Germans until Hangman pulled them both to the apron. Alexander held on with another German, still maintaining the grip. He wanted one more German in the aisleway. Hangman, though, was able to flip over, land on his feet, and then dropped him with an exploder into the guardrail. Both men beat the count back in before 10. Alexander ran into a pop-up Liger bomb for a near fall, and then as both men fought up the ropes, Alexander managed an avalanche rolling fireman's carry. That's a mouthful. Only got 2, though, before sinking in the ankle lock. Page got the ropes. Both men went back to the apron. Alexander wanted the C4 spike. Page, though, countered into a deadeye and then hit the Orihara moonsault out on the floor. So Don Callis is running distraction now on the referee. Lance Archer and Rocky Romero, they tried to intervene. They failed to successfully intervene. Romero got backdropped off the apron onto Archer. Yeah, they remind me of those cartoon villain henchmen. You know, you tell them, like, get him. And they can never do it. Like, it's like the gang that can't shoot straight. They always fuck up. That's basically their role here in the Callis family. Page connected with the buckshot lariat, and he pinned Alexander to put the match away. So it was a good opener. Predictable finish. I mean, we knew coming into this show that Alexander was not the one who was getting the championship match in Toronto. They didn't make it official until actually this next segment. But I think we knew coming in that he was not going to be the Callis member who was challenging for the title at All Out. He was somebody that Hangman can beat before he gets to the actual challenger. And on that note, we had an angle here when the match was over. Page took the microphone. He said that he didn't spill a gallon of his blood to win the AEW World title just to have someone like MJF change the stipulation to his matches. He didn't give everything he's had to this title to have someone associated with the Don Callis family getting involved. The most important word in AEW is wrestling. And Page is the All Elite Wrestling Men's World Champion. Kyle Fletcher walked out with Don Callis, saying that it was a nice sentiment to have, but it doesn't matter. While Page holds the title, the Callis family runs AEW, sure feels like it. And he brings up his challenge on Collision. Fletcher, he threw down the gauntlet on Collision for a championship match at All Out. So Page said Fletcher is lucky to not have his ass flighted out of here after what he did to Omega last week. But he understands it. Fletcher wanted to make a point. So Page told him to get in the ring and face him eye to eye. And Fletcher whispered to Don Callis, I got this. And he got into the ring. Page said that when he looks at Fletcher, he sees potential. But he also sees someone who can't put on a pair of socks. And they showed that he was wearing loafers with no socks. This guy thinks he's The Rock. Page put over Fletcher for being built like a brick shithouse. someone who has all the tools to be the future, even seeing himself in him, like when he stood across the ring from Chris Jericho in the early days of AEW. Chris Jericho name drop. Paige said that Fletcher isn't ready, though, which Fletcher said, oh, I've heard this before. I've heard this my entire life. He goes, I'm 26 years old. My prime is when I say it is, and that's right now. Paige said if Fletcher truly wants it, he'll give him his shot. He will give him the shot at All Out, but he needs to do it himself. If he's going to do it, he needs to earn it without the Callis family. So Fletcher said, you know what, Hangman might think that makes a difference, but he doesn't need anybody to beat him. So he has his word that at All Out, it'll be one-on-one, and he will not fail time after time like Hangman did before he finally won the championship. And he said that Hangman will say his full name. So as we saw later on in the show with Ricochet and the Gates of Agony, a heel giving their word is completely worthless. It doesn't mean anything. So the fact that he's saying, you have my word, I'm not going to have anybody from the Callis family at ringside to help me out, it doesn't mean shit. Okay, but let's take him at his word. Let's say he's telling the truth. If anything, I think they actually, in the eyes of some, may have made the match less interesting now, because while I could appreciate there being no interference, it's almost like continental rules, nobody believes that Kyle Fletcher is going to win the championship. Less people believe that Kyle Fletcher is going to win the championship in a fair fight. If he was to have any chance of winning the championship, it would be because somebody would interfere on his behalf. So I don't know that that's necessarily going to inspire people to think that, oh, maybe we're going to have a title change here. If anything, I think it does the opposite. But for Kyle Fletcher, you know, if he goes in there and he has a competitive match, a great match, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and falls short, right? It doesn't do damage to him. Him working with the world champion, going out there and having a competitive match is only going to raise his stock that much higher. It is not the most attractive world championship match they could be doing. It really isn't the right time for Kyle Fletcher to be wrestling for the world title. That's a shoot. But he is. And so he gets to go out there now, show the world what he can do. He's not going to win. But hopefully he'll be able to come out of it in a better position than he was going into it. Again, it's not what I would do. I would not be taking my TNT champion in this situation and putting him up against the world champion in a match that he has no chance of winning. But this is the match that they're doing because they're putting off the MJF stuff in the contract for a little while longer. So it's an opportunity for him to go out there and have a great showing. Because throughout the year, they've been taking steps with him, going back to the cage match with Ospreay. When this year is over, we will look back at it as the year that Kyle Fletcher really did come into his own as a single star. This was really the year that launched him to that next level, right? He's not yet at the top level, but if he was down here, now he's here. And then in 2026, that'll be a year for him to go up, you know, climb up to the next rung of the ladder. Take your time with him because they really have created, and again, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but they've created something out of nothing. Kyle Fletcher was one half of a tag team. Now he is a legitimate single star in this company. He never has to go back to being a tag team wrestler ever again. Now, they aired footage of Konosuke Takeshita defeat, and I'm going to talk about him later, but they aired footage of Takeshita defeating Mark Briscoe on Collision with the surprise assist from MJF, who showed up on the Saturday show. As I said, I said last week, I said, I'm guessing that MJF is going to show up as a surprise on Collision. And this whole thing about Kyle Fletcher defending the TNT title against Mark Briscoe, if Briscoe can just beat Takeshita, he already beat Lance Archer. Now he's just got to beat Takeshita. He was never getting a shot at the TNT title. This was always going to be designed to get us to Briscoe and MJF one more time. And so they shot the angle on Saturday. Now we come back with footage from MJF after the show. This is not live, but it was after the show on Saturday. He's pacing around in the parking lot. He said his wedding was the day before, and his wife asked him, where are you going? Because he was headed out the door. And, you know, she's wondering, where are you going? We're supposed to go on our honeymoon. And he told her their honeymoon can't start until Mark Briscoe is dead. His wife said, if you leave right now, we're done. They just got married. And MJF started laughing, and he told, and I quote, that silly little bitch that he was married well before he ever met her, because he's married to the game and he's ready to make Mark Briscoe's life a living hell. Whatever stipulation Briscoe chooses for their match it all out, this Saturday on Collision is when we're going to find out what that is. MJF will say exactly what he told his wife on their wedding day. I do. By God, I do. And I throw it out to you. What do you think the stipulation is going to be? I'm sure it will be something hardcore. Exactly what it is, though, I don't know. We do know Darby Allin and Jon Moxley are wrestling it all out in a coffin match. So that match is now official. Renee was backstage. She was in catering, along with many other AEW talents. And catering, I should say. It was basically, it looked just like a tent in the parking lot. That's how it is at the old ECW arena, I guess. Actually, it looked like if you were going to a wedding reception for someone, it was kind of set up that way. But she's with the Young Bucks, who said that when they win the $500,000 tag team match tonight, they're not going to be eating awful food anymore. They're going to be traveling first class. They're going to be eating caviar. Nick Jackson said he's going to be hitting the casino to try to double his money. So they tried to sit down then at, they have like these cafeteria tables. Like they're back in high school or prison. And they're trying to sit down. The Dark Order is there. When was the last time we saw them on Dynamite? They're sitting around. Well, but actually, this is real life shit right here. This is exactly where you would expect them to be during Dynamite, sitting in catering. So they try to take a seat next to the Dark Order. They get rejected. So then they spot their old pal, Brandon Cutler, sitting there. And they try to be chummy with him. And he says, you know, I've been waiting to say this for a long time. Shut up, Young Bucks. Then he got up and he walked off. So he doesn't want to have anything to do with them either. Jon Moxley then walks in, takes a seat next to them, puts his feet up on the table. All the extras in the background, all the enhancement guys, they start scurrying around and leaving like they're scared shitless that Jon Moxley has showed up. And Moxley reminds the Bucks who the hell they are, and he promised them $250,000 apiece. So basically giving up the Death Riders' share of the winnings in the main event, because the main event is a $500,000 match. He's willing to give all $500,000 to the two of them, and they just split it. If they show up for the main event, and they show up as the old Young Bucks. So look, I will say this, at least here with the Bucks, they were incorporating the money, because it's very dumb. Whenever Tony Khan advertises these random fucking matches, $400,000 this, $600,000 that, $200,000, who gives a shit? It's not like it's ever played up in any major meaningful way, but here it does play into the Young Bucks story because they've been down on their luck, right? They've just been down in the dumps ever since they got stripped of their EVP titles, and they're not traveling in the way they used to travel. They're not living this extravagant lifestyle anymore. And so now they have hope because, oh my God, $500,000 is on the line in this main event. This could be just what we need, to turn our fortunes around. At least it feeds into their storyline. Now we had Mercedes Moné and Emi Sakura teaming up to take on Alex Windsor and RIHO. RIHO returned on Dynamite last week. We had not seen RIHO in about 14 months. She returned on Dynamite. Within 2 minutes, we had a graphic. Tony Khan had the graphic ready to go for All Out. RIHO and Mercedes Moné for the TBS Championship. Sure. Does it make any sense? No, but sure. As I've been saying, she's a warm body. She's a warm body to go in there and lose to Mercedes, the next victim on the list that you can add her name to the list and get her that much closer to being the longest reigning TBS champion of all time. Because she's already beaten most of the other women on the roster. So Mercedes and Emi came out together. Emi was carrying and wearing half of Mercedes' titles because she cannot carry them. She cannot physically carry all of them around all the time. So at least here she had somebody else who could carry half of her belts. So they came out, and Emi Sakura, by the way, they dusted her off. We have not seen Emi Sakura in a long time, but the reason that she was here and Mercedes wanted her as her partner is because Emi Sakura is the one who trained RIHO. Hence the reason why they blew the dust off and pulled her down off the toy shelf to use here in this match. So this was RIHO's first match on Dynamite since March of last year. So that's a trivia question. What do Wardlow and RIHO have in common? The last time they both wrestled on Dynamite was in March of 2024. That's about the only thing that Wardlow and RIHO have in common. They also mentioned that this was Emi Sakura's first match on Dynamite since October, ironically enough, against Mercedes Mone. Now they're tag team partners. So Sakura planted RIHO with a slam early on. RIHO was able to bridge out. She delivered a drop kick and a tiger feint kick before tagging in Alex Windsor. She baited Mercedes in. They doubled up on her for a little bit. RIHO was back in with a half crab on Emi. Mone pulled her partner to the floor. During the commercial break, Mercedes and Emi, they isolated RIHO, who fought free. She dove. She made the hot tag. Windsor ran wild with a lariat on Mercedes, who kicked free from a sharpshooter attempt. Could not avoid a stun gun. With Mone hung up in the ropes, RIHO delivered a top rope double stomp and then a sliding drop kick for two. We got an awkward leg sweep slam by RIHO on Sakura. Mercedes, though, made the save. Sakura wanted her finish. RIHO escaped, sank in a half crab. At the same time, Alex trapped Mercedes in the ropes with a sharpshooter. And meanwhile, Emi was trapped in her own submission, and she tapped out to RIHO. So not only is RIHO back, RIHO is tapping people out. She's a dangerous woman. I didn't realize RIHO was so dangerous. 98 pounds of fury here. Now, at the same time that Emi Sakura was tapping out, so was Mercedes. Mercedes was not the legal woman, but as she was trapped in the ropes and the sharpshooter, she was tapping out, in case you missed it. This was what you would expect, given the fact that RIHO is the one challenging for the TBS title at the pay-per-view. So, of course, it made sense for her to go over here in this match. Once they announced that Emi Sakura was randomly returning on Dynamite, it's like, okay, you have one job. Your only job in this match is to show up and do the honors for RIHO and put her over. And that's what she did. Beyond that, I have nothing else to say about this. Now, Renee was backstage with Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. And he spoke about the Hurt Syndicate, calling them cowards. But he wanted a gentleman's agreement. They just want a one-on-one match. That's what he wants tonight. He wants it one-on-one with Shelton Benjamin and himself. At All Out, when their hands are raised in victory, the Hurt Syndicate will have no choice but to respect them, and that is not a choice, that is a demand. Now, Renee also delivered a video package on the FTR Christian Cage Adam Copeland feud. She narrated it. Stokely Hathaway then marches out at the end of the video package. He marches out. This was the weird segment of the night. He marches out. Dax is there with him. Cash is there with him. Stokely said that video package was bullshit. FTR is the greatest tag team in the world. They're going to win it all out. And every week, Stokely says he hears the same thing. Shut up, Stokely. You don't get any hoes. Despite hearing that, everyone in the 2300 arena looks like extras from Roseanne. So no one ain't getting no hoes, which is probably very true. Dax Harwood then speaks up, and he says, this could have and it should have been a dream match. But he said that he's heard enough of the fans wanting to fight, so let's fight. And he gets up in the face of one fan in the front row, who's right up in his face. Looks like he's ready to throw down. And basically this was Dax Harwood trying very, very hard to play the role of Bubba Ray Dudley. in the ECW arena back in 1997. When Bubba would try to get the fans all riled up and he would get right up in their face. It was like he was trying to incite a riot, right? But you talk about hardcore. The shit that he was saying, right? I mean, the stuff that he was saying is a lot worse than anything you'll hear on this Dynamite show. But this is Dax trying to, rile up the fans as much as he possibly can for whatever reason. I was assuming that he was going to go around and they had like a planted fan, either a wrestler or just a fan that they were going to beat up. And they never did anything like that. He just went from one fan to the next, jawing with them and getting up in their face and talking shit, acting like, oh, go ahead, hit me, come on, jump over the guard, which, by the way, one of these days somebody will. And it could be bad news. So be careful what you wish for, because there's a lot of crazy people out there. So he's getting up in front of, people's faces, and the referees come out and security comes out, and he's in the aisleway now. And he knocks down one of the cameramen. And then he knocks down one of the assistants who's holding the cords for the TV cameras. So now FTR is just randomly beating up a couple of the production crew members. And this is where referees and security come out to try to intervene and break all this up. Bryan Danielson, his first night here on commentary, he's very, very astute. He's watching all of this unfold, and he says he's not sure what any of this was about. And I would agree. This was a very odd way to send a message to Adam Copeland and Christian Cage going into your match here at All Out by beating up members of the production crew. I don't know what the point of any of this was. I have no idea why this segment was even needed. What was the point of this? I mean, Dax was out there. He was trying so hard to play tough guy, getting up in front of the fans' faces, and it went nowhere. And I think what they were trying to do, what they were doing, I think they thought that they had more heat than they really did. This was not heat. This was just them trying to play tough guy, expecting, I think, more of a reaction maybe than what they got. They were trying to also play it off as this big chaotic thing. It didn't come across that way at all. I just thought this segment was just bizarre. Whatever they were going for, at least for me, didn't accomplish it. This was a waste of time. If you don't have anything better to do to help promote this tag match for All Out, better to just keep them off the show. Try again next week. Next week is going to be the final Dynamite, the go-home Dynamite before All Out. I know it's kind of played out to do a contract signing. You could do a contract signing. You could do no physicality, get all four men in the ring, and let them go out there, put a mic in their hand, and let them give the final hard sell for the show. And talk about why this match is so important to them, why this is a dream match, why this match is so special. Let them go out there and articulate that. There was no need for them to be on the show tonight. This was just dumb. Now, Renee was backstage with the Hurt Syndicate. Benjamin cuts off MVP and says if Ricochet keeps Gates of Agony in the back, he will keep MVP and Lashley backstage as well. And he'll put Ricochet's goofy ass on his back. And that led to Ricochet one-on-one against Shelton Benjamin. Attacking right at the bell, Ricochet sent Benjamin outside with a drop kick, hit a Fosbury flop. It was quickly back inside with a springboard 450. Benjamin, though, returned fire with a big kick. He goozled Ricochet, chucked him to the corner, hit a running step-up knee, and then was ragdolling him outside the ring, back and forth from the apron to the barricade, back and forth. Back inside, Benjamin no-sold the forearm. He launched Ricochet with a pump handle drop. After a commercial break, Benjamin caught a springing Ricochet with an overhead belly-to-belly, and then took him to Suplex City. Another step-up knee in the corner that led to a float-over snap suplex for two by Benjamin. Shelton swung Ricochet's legs through the ropes. He delivered a pump kick. Took too long, though, to follow up, and Ricochet scaled the ropes. He hit a Spanish fly for a 2 count. Ricochet pulled out the golden scissors, and Benjamin put a stop to that, turned Ricochet inside out with a lariat. Then he grabbed the scissors, which got chants of ECW from the crowd. They wanted him to use the scissors. They wanted him to stab this man with the scissors. Instead, Benjamin rips the scissors apart and then throws them aside. And he actually got booed for doing that. Bishop Khan showed up, distracted the referee long enough for Toa Leona to appear. He decked Benjamin with a headbutt. This was like one of those El Grande Americano headbutts, the one he gave AJ Styles last week, where he headbutted him in the chest. And somehow AJ was knocked out and then pinned. So here he kind of, he headbutted him kind of in the chest. And that allowed Ricochet to get the roll up to steal the win. Blah. Bleh. Cheap finish. And what a shock. The heels go back on their word. Ricochet says, it's going to be one-on-one. I'll leave the gates of agony in the back, except I won't. That's what heels do. That's what they do. They lie. That's why you shouldn't believe a fucking word out of Kyle Fletcher's mouth when he tells Hangman, I promise, no members of the Callis family will come out to help me. They're heels. You can't believe a word they say. I was going to say, actually, you can't believe the heels, but aren't they both heels? Are the Hurt Syndicate like officially baby faces? I don't even know anymore. I don't know. I mean, the fans cheer for them, so we'll call them baby faces. The action before the shitty finish was good. Then the finish happened, and it was like, eh. But before that, it was good. MVP and Lashley hit ringside. They brawled with GOA, Toa Leona, and Lashley. Leona was not backing down from Lashley. And they went at it. Security had to separate them all. Again, look, they're building to a mid-card trios match. At the pay-per-view, what they did here was serviceable. It was fine. We got some good action from Ricochet and Benjamin before the cheap finish. And after this, we got a vignette. We got a vignette with Hook, who was sitting on a rooftop somewhere in the city. I presume New York City. I've seen some of those rooftops before. That's what it looked like to me. Saying he's sitting on a couch. And he says that he's always respected Samoa Joe and the Ops. Appreciates that they have his back. He appreciates them always having his back. But they replaced him before the body was cold. And after Joe explained it to him last week, now he gets it. When one gets hurt, someone will step up. That being said, maybe it's time for Hook to stand on his own. And then he pulled off his shades. I don't know why he's wearing shades anyway at night, but he pulls off his shades for dramatic effect and says, then again, maybe not. And they flash the Hook logo on the screen. I do love how they had to, he had to pull the glasses off for that little bit of extra dramatic effect. Okay, then. I don't know what else to say about this. He's sort of intimating that either he will link up with another crew or form his own crew is what I get out of this. We could be looking for an Ops versus, I don't know what he's going to call it, but if Hook ends up having his own group, Hook's group against the Ops, maybe coming out of this, and then Hook can win the trios titles. I don't know who the other two would be. I have no idea. But that was it. That's what we got here from Hook on the show. At least we didn't have to hear the music. No music. Just Hook. We had Toni Storm. Oh, boy. We had Timeless Toni Storm against Skye Blue in what was billed as a Philly street fight. Because when you do a show at the 2300 Arena, you have to pay homage to ECW and have your prototypical, you're mandated to do at least one hardcore garbage match on the show. This was your hardcore garbage match of the night. I don't know what Toni was supposed to be dressed up as when she came out. I guess this was her street fight gear. She had her hair slicked back all wet. She also had a kendo stick that was signed by the Sandman. I saw their video together backstage earlier today. Sandman was kneeling. It's actually pretty impressive that he can do that with his knees. Think of the abuse these ECW guys took back in the day. But he's down on like one knee, and Toni has this kendo stick, and she's knighting him like Sir Sandman. So I guess he was the special guest of honor. Wasn't on the show, though. But the kendo stick was signed, it was autographed by the Sandman. So, of course, we got some kendo stick spots. Toni smacked Skye Blue with a sign. Skye Blue smacked her on the butt with a baking pan. Then she stapled Toni's ass with a staple gun. Yes, we got the obligatory staple gun, which whatever. Then she stapled the champion's nipples and nether regions. I'm trying. I'm trying with the show. I really am. This certainly is for the sickos. I will say that. Then it was Toni's turn to use it on Skye Blue's nether regions. Taz told someone to get Toni a beer. Someone get me a drink. A stiff Jack and Coke would be welcome. I could use one. Later on outside the ring, Toni flipped over. There was a cover, like a lid, on a table outside. She flipped over the cover to reveal a table covered in mousetraps. They're all lined up, one right next to it. Probably 20 mousetraps on this table. And she has cheese in her hand. She has pieces of cheese. And she is eating a piece of cheese. And then she hands it to Excalibur to take a bite, which he did. You know, if I ate that, I'd shit myself. So I would kindly say, thank you, but no thank you. Storm places Skye's finger in a mousetrap, and it snaps, and she screams in pain. Storm tries to powerbomb her through the table, because we're on the apron now. Skye Blue reverses it, powerbombs Toni onto the mousetrap-covered table. Skye then grabs a chair. She wedges it in the corner, but that backfires when Toni, after she recovers, throws her face first into the chair. Toni takes the chair and proceeds to channel her inner Balls Mahoney with it and starts hammering Skye across the back. Well, actually, okay, in that case, I don't want to sully the good name of one Balls Mahoney now. If this was Balls Mahoney, he wouldn't be hitting anybody across the back with the chair. He'd be doling out CTE to anybody within 10 feet of him. So this wasn't quite that. So then, after that, Toni has, I don't know where the hell she got this from, but she had an electric fly swatter. At least that's what Excalibur said it was. She has an electric fly swatter. She smacks Skye Blue on the ass with it. Toni put Skye on the top rope. Storm was thinking about a superplex. Skye, though, slipped out and then powerbombed Toni onto a trash can. Skye looked for code blue. Toni avoided it, smacked her in the face with a chair.
Attention to the sicko in row 4. Look, I know you're excited to be a Dynamite tonight at your first show, but you can't be pulling that thing out. Okay, you got to put that away.
Fuck Triple H.
And don't think I didn't see that sign that you brought that said, I came to see AEW. That's sick. Thank you.
Will they ever learn? Will they ever learn their lesson? Bobbert Reviews with another 40. Thank you, Bobbert. That's beer money. All that liquor I just talked about. I'm gonna go buy some when we're done here. Thank you, Bobbert. Will the sickos ever learn? I don't think so. But they were loving this. I'm sure they were loving the shit out of this. So Skye went for code blue. Toni avoided it, smacked her in the face with a chair, hit a hip attack, and then a Storm Zero onto the chair, and Toni wins the match. Now, after the match was over, Julia Hart and Tekla attacked Toni. Chris Statlander came out to help Toni, but she was outnumbered, and so Jamie Hayter ran down to the ring. And she helped Statlander while Toni was still down. Hayter wound up for her finish on Julia, but Julia ducked. Guess what happened? Guess what happened next? Yes, Jamie Hayter took out Chris Statlander by accident with the clothesline. So Julia then put Hayter down with an awkward leg sweep, sent her to the floor. Tekla got Storm up and then did her creepy little spider pose that she does. And then she delivered a spear. Yes. Because that's a move we don't get enough of in wrestling today. The spear. We need another one. You know, I don't think enough people do the spear. I think we need more people doing the spear. In fact, I think when Tony Schiavone comes out to do the play-by-play on Collision, before he comes down and takes his seat, I think he should spear somebody. Just to get in on the fun. Why should he be left out? So what was this? This was a love letter to the old ECW, which to them was just violence and just dumb violence, which is what this was. This was dumb violence that was not really needed, but based on where they were and the setting and what those bloodthirsty fans were looking for and what Tony Khan loves, this was his love letter to ECW. And Toni Storm, and I will say, the women worked hard here. Not a knock on the women. I love Toni. Toni's great. She tried to make this entertaining. I thought Skye Blue held her own and looked good here. I just didn't care for this. Didn't care. Sorry. I'll tell you what I do care about, though. We have a 4-way coming up at All Out. It was confirmed on Collision this past weekend because I wasn't sure who Toni Storm was going to be defending her championship against. And then we found out that it's going to be in a 4-way match because why not? But then you look at the lineup for the match, this would be a hard match to fuck up. You've got Toni Storm, you've got Jamie Hayter, you've got Chris Statlander, and you've got Tekla. Hayter and Tekla obviously have had their issues. And then you throw in Statlander and Toni. And I think it would be impossible for these 4 to go in there and have anything less than a really good match. I don't necessarily like the idea of putting Toni and Jamie in the ring against each other, like out of nowhere, as opposed to doing a one-on-one, which they weren't ready to do anyway. Maybe this will eventually lead to that down the road. But, look, in the absence of any obvious number 1 contender, this is a hell of a match to put together. And I would not say that it's a guaranteed win for Toni Storm, especially given what's been going on lately with the Death Rider stuff and them trying to recruit Statlander and dropping little hints. If there was going to be a title change in that match at All Out, and I think there very well could be, but if there was going to be, the one who's going to win that championship, it's not Jamie Hayter. It's not Tekla. It's Chris Statlander. If they do a title change. Because I could see her joining, and in joining, she brings with her the AEW Women's World Championship. And maybe that's not a bad idea. Toni Storm has no obvious challengers left. The only thing that's obvious at this point is that when Mercedes eventually loses the TBS title, in due time, she will win the World Championship. I'm sorry. The idea that, we can keep the title on Toni so that Mercedes can get her win back. Fuck that. Okay. At some point soon, you're going to have to make a move here because people get bored. And sometimes the babyface needs to be back in chase mode to make things interesting again. So if they wanted to do a title change here, yeah, I wish there was a more focused story here for Toni, but taking the title off of her to put it on someone like Statlander would not be a terrible idea. Just to shake things up a little bit in that division. Now, Renee interviewed Willow Nightingale backstage, who said that she stands up for good. She said that when people defy that, she punches them in the face and then does it again if they don't get it. She was about to address Marina Shafir, who she says she hates and would love to get her hands on Marina Shafir, when she was interrupted by Harley Cameron wearing her cat makeup. And she had a guitar on her, and she was here to sing a song about Willow. And Willow said that Harley is lovely, but she couldn't be on a team with Chris Statlander, and she warned Harley, watch your back around Statlander. After this, they announced that talk about coming out of nowhere here, on the subject of All Out. They announced a tournament, a small tournament for a unified championship match at All Out. We're getting a 3-way for Okada's title at All Out, if Okada has his title, because this is what they announced. On Collision, we're getting Kazuchika Okada against Michael Oku. The same Michael Oku who, the only time we've seen Michael Oku recently was on the pre-show at Forbidden Door where he almost died. Okay, when he got pounced over the top rope and almost landed right on the top of his head. Scariest spot of the entire night. Michael Oku is wrestling Okada in what I can only assume is going to be a championship match, because why the fuck would Okada be in a tournament to crown number 1 contenders for his championship at the pay-per-view? He's in the tournament. So he's wrestling Michael Oku. It's got to be a title match. The winner of that will go on to the championship match in Toronto. Konosuke Takeshita on Collision will be wrestling Anthony Bowens. Gee, I wonder how that's going to go. And then what is that? Oh, that's I think that's Dynamite next week, right? Oh God, next week. That's right. Yeah, next week is they've bumped up Collision. It's a 1 hour show, so it's a 3 hour block next Wednesday. I don't know that I'm watching all 3 hours. We might just do the Dynamite portion, but they're calling it September to Remember. On that show next week, it'll be the Beast Mortos against Mascara Dorada. So the winner of all three of those matches will go on to All Out to wrestle in a triple threat for the Unified Championship. I don't know why this needs to be a three-way. Why does this need to be a three-way? Why can't you just do Okada and Takeshita if that's what you're going to do? I mean, really. Not that it's going to be a bad match. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, we're getting Okada, Takeshita, and the Beast Mortos. And that's going to be great, right? Beast Mortos never wins a fucking thing, but it's going to be a great match. I just don't know why this needs to be a three-way, and it was a little weird that Okada was actually in the tournament. So I guess in theory, if Michael Oku were to beat Okada, he would be the champion, then he would be in the three-way at All Out. I don't know. This is what they came up with. I don't know. I don't know. The main event. We had the tag team champions, Brody King and Bandito, teaming up with the Ops, Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and Powerhouse Hobbs, to take on Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and the Young Bucks in a $500,000 all-star 10-man tag team main event. Wow. Say that 5 times fast. So the Bucks walked out to the old Dynamite music. This was like the original AEW Dynamite theme song. And we had them coming out also with their ID photos on the screen to their government names. So it said Matthew Ron John Massey and Nicholas Lee Massey. Bryan Danielson was blown away after discovering Ron John was apparently the legitimate middle name for Matt Jackson. I didn't know that. Apparently that's his legitimate name there. So there was a duffel bag that was filled with $500,000 in cash just sitting on top of the announce desk. The Ops fought the Death Riders while the Bucks shied away from King and Bandito, but they eventually got caught. Bandito hit a moonsault off the top rope onto the Bucks. Moxley also at ringside. Bandito went up top, frog splash Claudio for a near fall. That took us into the final picture-in-picture break. Later in the match, Matt broke up Bandito's attempt at a 21-plex to his brother. Bandito shoved Matt into Nick, who fell off the apron, and then went for a monkey flip on Matt, but Nick held his brother. And Matt covered Bandito, and Nick held Matt's legs down across the middle rope for leverage, and Matt Jackson got the pin to win the prize money and to win it here for the heels. So the Bucks, when the match was over, they grabbed the duffel bag full of cash. Brody King, though, chopped them both. Some of the money went flying. Fucking Andre and Stud at the first WrestleMania. So Bandito joined Brody in working over the Bucks. They both fought off to the back. Meanwhile, the Death Riders worked over the Ops in and around ringside. Darby Allin's music hit, and Darby went after Moxley while the Ops pulled Claudio and Yuta out to the floor. So Darby was getting the better of Moxley when a man in a hoodie entered the ring and ambushed him, attacked him from behind. And when the man pulled down the hood, he revealed Daniel Garcia. And the crowd goes mild. Then they chanted, "You sold out," at Garcia. You know, I would sell out too if I lost every fucking match that I was in. So Marita Shafir placed a chair in the ring. Garcia locked Darby in a dragon tamer and then pulled his arms behind him. He was going to curb stomp him face first down onto the chair. And he went to do it. And Darby, I don't know, he turned away at the last second and he stomped him on the mat right next to the chair. It's like, oh, okay, oops. So then he stood there for a little bit like, I got to do this over again because this just looked like complete shit. So he redid the spot. And this time he hit it. This time he nailed the spot. And then Garcia started to beat the hell out of Darby to the point where Moxley actually motioned for Marina Shafir to stop him, like calm him down and stop him. And then they fled into the crowd, and that was how the show ended. What can I say about the match? I mean, look, it was identical to every other 6-man, 8-man, 10-man, 12-man, 16-man, 20-man, 30-man, 40-man, 50-man all-star tag team match that we get on this show every single week. Except this time they added $500,000 to the match as prize money, which went to the Young Bucks. Bandito was still awesome. I'll put him over. Bandito's fucking great. But the rest of the match was just a blur. It's like every other fucking match they do every single week. Throw as many people out there as you possibly can. Let them do a bunch of big spots. Everybody will cheer. This is awesome. Okay, great. I mean, what else is there to say about it? Again, Bandito's great, but we got the same all-star match we get every single week. Garcia joining the Death Riders about 2 years too late. He would have been a good fit for this shit 2 years ago. He's joining them now. Do we really need to be adding new members to this group? I don't think so, but it looks like that's where we're headed, and Chris Statlander is probably going to be next. I mean, at least that's what they want you to believe. Chris Statlander very well could be another new addition to the group, which again is what makes me think if Toni is going to lose her title at All Out, Statlander may end up being the beneficiary of that. We shall see. So again, they did a fine, serviceable job of building up some of the mid-card matches that are coming up at All Out. We have our World Championship match that is now official between Hangman and Kyle Fletcher. Copeland and Christian, FTR, we already knew about that. MJF and Briscoe, we'll find out what the stipulation for that is on Collision this weekend. And we'll find out some of the members of the three-way match for the unified title. That'll be coming up at the pay-per-view as well. So the card is filling in. It is filling in. I'm trying to think what championships. Well, the TNT title obviously is not being defended. We have Mercedes and RIHO. So that takes care of the TBS title. Brody King and Bandito have no match at this point. I assume they will at some point, but right now they don't have an official match. We have Ricochet in the Gates of Agony against the Hurt Syndicate, and we have the four-way for the Women's Championship with Toni defending in that match. So that's where All Out stands at this point. We have one more Dynamite left. That'll be next week's show. And then that leads directly into All Out, where we also know that one of the it might be the final hour of the 0 hour pre-show for the first time is going to be airing live on television as well. They've never done that before. So I think that'll be at 2 p.m. And then the pay-per-view itself kicks off at 3 on the 20th. So that was your AEW Dynamite for tonight. Let's take a look at the Twitter poll. What did you think of Dynamite here from Philly? We have 39.2% thumbs up, 60.8% thumbs down. And that is the score. Thumbs up, thumbs down at Solomonster. You can go vote. We got a tailgate brawl out. Yes, that they're calling it like a tailgate Saturday. It's got some weird name. It's a 0 hour. It's the same thing. Get to your messages. This is what I like to call the all-star portion. This is the all-star super chat portion of the stream. I'm going to start doing that every single week. You are now my all-stars. So everybody who drops a message, you are officially a Sound Off all-star. Let's move back here.
Mentos, the fresh maker.
Oh, Oz and Glorious. Oz and Glorious. with the $30 Mentos, the Fresh Maker. Yeah, the funny thing is, like, we used to get matches on the like, remember when WWE had the free for all? I mean, that's going back. Like, that's when they first started doing pre-shows. They had the free for all, and then it became the kickoff show. And one of my favorite matches to this day actually was a kickoff match. One of my favorite kickoff matches, I should say. I'm pretty sure it was at the show that I was at in Philly, because I went to Money in the Bank in Philly one year, and it was Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins against the Usos. So, I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. This was like 2013. But now, like today, WWE has no matches on the pre-shows. You know, AEW will try to like flood the pre-show with as many matches as they could possibly fit in. They'll throw the Costco guys in there if they can. And then WWE doesn't do anything. There's got to be like a happy medium. You know, find that like one or two matches that didn't quite fit on the main card. You know what I mean? That you could kind of fit on the because WWE's pre-shows are at least 2 hours long, you know, and sometimes they'll even stretch it out to like 3. I'm just waiting on the announcement that the WrestlePalooza pre-show is going to start at 3 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be some kind of weird, like expanded, you know, pre-show, but there's no matches on them. There's just no matches. They're just going over the same, you know, bullshit to promote each match that they always do. And then Wade Barrett makes a comment that isn't offensive in the least. And then people get their undies in a bunch because they think he insulted Nikki Bella. Maybe they should just do away with the pre-shows altogether. Oh, man. I think I lost some of the early ones, but we'll pick up from here. I don't think I lost too many of them. We got a couple here from Terrible Dried Chicken. Every time I see the prize money on the line in AEW, Tony Khan is actually onto something. I'll give AEW a B grade for imagination. I know it's ridiculous to some people, but AEW can always turn the prize money match into a story angle. Yeah, you can. You can. They generally don't. Somebody might comment on it in a backstage promo, but when you do it all the time and it generally doesn't lead anywhere, it's pretty fucking dumb. At least with the Bucks tonight, and we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but the Bucks won the money, right? Actually, that makes me kind of sad, because if that means the Bucks aren't going to get their bum-ass entrances anymore, I'm actually kind of pissed that they did that. That tended to be one of the more entertaining parts of the show. When they would come out, and their music would be all fucked up, and their intro would be all fucked up. If they just go back now to being the Bucks of old, that's kind of lame. Base Beer says these high-profile wrestlers need security. Well, I mean, the women certainly do. I think they do. Some of them do now. Some of them do have security now. I saw a video with Roxanne Perez a couple weeks ago. She had security. The moldy cheeseburger. Yes, the moldy cheeseburger. To go with that piece of cheese that Tony Storm had on the show tonight. I was listening to episode 928 of The Sound Off, and you had a list of venues for AEW to run. What if AEW ran an episode of Dynamite or a pay-per-view at Madison Square Garden? I am sure the WWE would do everything in their power to block them from doing so. You could try it. I think it's a very expensive building to run, and I think that I mean, you would have to put together a pay-per-view quality card. If it was going to be a Dynamite, you would have to put together like a Grand Slam kind of card. It's very ambitious for AEW to do that. You know, they run New York, never the Garden, and it's not like they're packing in the houses in New York. This is why they're not on the road running bigger buildings to begin with. So, running Madison Square Garden.
I am the one.
Shut the fuck up. Fuck that tree.
You know, running Madison Square Garden, if you are only going to put 4,000 people in the building, would be pretty fucking dumb. you would have to put together a card that you know is going to draw. At least double that. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother running. It's not even financially worth it to run there. That's why WWE stopped running there, because it's too expensive for them. So they run there now, but they don't run nearly as often as they used to. They just go to Barclays over in Brooklyn. Joseph Stewart, I will be going to see Batman Forever next week in theaters for its 30th anniversary. I figured you would be first in line. That's very cool. Also, who are your two favorite Raven flock members? Mine is Raven and Billy Kidman. I'm going to go Horace Hogan, and Ron Reese. How about Sick Boy? Maybe Sick Boy. Terrible Dried Chicken. I cannot wait to hear Booker T doing commentary for Stephanie Vicaire on NXT next week. Booker T's personality is better than Corey Graves' personality. I don't think Corey Graves is even doing commentary anymore on NXT. Right? I don't think he's done it in a few weeks. Food Hive. Excalibur said Taz carries water for the Bucks. Reminds me of when you were accused of carrying water for both AEW and WWE at the same time. Hashtag 9 days, yeah. Carrying all this water, it's no wonder I have these guns. Those are some heavy pails. Thank you, Food Hive. What's cooking tonight, Food Hive? See, you all forgot about Sick Boy, didn't you? Terrible Dried Chicken says the Street Profits talk about we want the smoke. FTR said hold our beers. They kick the hornet's nest and pick a fight with the Philly crowd. I don't know, man. Can you imagine, like, they piss off a bunch of the Philly fans and they all just jump the barricade and FTR's like, oh shit. And they all just start kicking their ass. I don't know if they have Atlas Security there still. See, I wouldn't want to mess with Atlas Security. What's that guy's name? Ronnie? Yeah, I wouldn't be jumping the barricade there. He also says, you know what they say? Bald is beautiful. No, I don't know, actually. C's with the $4.99. Is Io Sky your women's wrestler of the year? Yes. Do you agree that from top to bottom, WWE's women's division is significantly better than AEW's? No. No, it is not significantly better than AEW's. Terrible Dried Chicken. Sometimes in life, you got to say, fuck it. Says he enjoyed the Street Fighter Peaches and Cream match with Toni and Skye. I'll bet you did. You enjoyed it for everything but the wrestling, though. Also, imagine Nikki Bella stealing Okada's Rainmaker. Yeah, I'd love to see that. C's, did you know that Io Sky has not taken a clean loss, meaning no interference, since December 30th, 2024? Good. She shouldn't. Keep the streak going. Bobbert with that first 40 drop. No message. He just wanted to unlock that message for the sickos. Thank you, Bobbert. Appreciate it, brother. Terrible Dried Chicken says the Death Riders told everyone, hey guys, we're adding more members. So fuck you. Mr. Rod, Daniel Garcia is now in the Death Riders. Why? Funny, but unnecessary. I just love it when he revealed himself, and before they started chanting "You sold out," like it was. It's like nobody cared. Who could care? I mean, really. Of all the things that combine The Death Riders and Daniel Garcia. Yeah, that'll light it up. Terrible Dried Chicken. Wardlow needs a New Japan just to reinvent himself. I think Wardlow needs like a shaman or something at this point. Birthday boy. It's my birthday today. I have a Tony Khan cake. Well, happy birthday to the birthday boy. I hope it's a great one. Terrible Dried Chicken. The Young Bucks going to buy some McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Popeyes, Arby's, and Taco Bell to celebrate their birthday. You forgot Subway. You forgot Jersey Mike's. You forgot Chipotle. Chipotle? Chipotle. Where are we on the likes, by the way? It doesn't look like we're doing Be the Booker tonight. I think we're like 85 likes away. That ain't going to happen. That ain't going to cut it. Terrible Dried Chicken says, Terrible Dried Chicken disappeared on me. Where is he? There he is. I double dog dare Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch take a picture with Jack Perry. I don't know where Jack Perry is. Jack Perry is in the witness protection program. He is nowhere to be found. Ray Warfield Jr. Solo the GOAT. What's your favorite right AEW of all time? My favorite, I have no idea what's your favorite AEW of all time? There's only one AEW. I'm not sure. That could mean so many different things. Ray, I don't know what you're trying to ask me, brother, but thank you. I appreciate it. Bobbert with the other 40 men. You are the man. Thank you, Bobbert. Dried Chicken. CM Punk and AJ Lee. Bad idea number 31. They will steal one of Seth and Becky's expensive clothes and give it to Larry the dog so he can chew and piss. You know what's worse than that? Cat piss. You can't get that shit out. It's like a skunk. Oz and Glorious. Acknowledge him. 51 months. 51 months of channel membership. Fed Pilled Phil. Am I blocked again? I'll be back in a new form. Uh-oh. Fed Pilled Phil is with us. Thank you, Fed Pilled Phil. Oz and Glorious says, I will never forgive Danielson for convincing Tony that Garcia and Yuta were the second coming. It's been 4 years and Tony is still trying to convince us every week that these two are on Fletcher, Takeshita, and Kids level. You know, I would be lying if I didn't briefly think of you when I saw what happened with Garcia at the end of the show. I could just picture you throwing furniture around. I'm sorry, brother. Dried Chicken says if Chris Statlander wins the women's world title, we'll use Moxley as a Death Rider on Tony, or Wheeler Yuta interferes and attacks Tony for more heat. Yeah, that would be fucking terrible. So let's not involve Wheeler Yuta, please, in the women's match. I don't want to see Wheeler Yuta in the men's matches, let alone in the women's match. So let's not do that. Yukio rules. Hey, Solomonster, do you remember when The Undertaker brought up the learning tree in a promo? I don't. That sounds like something he would have said, though, when he was Big Evil. But that's not a promo of his that stands out to me. Uffman. With 53 months of membership, past midnight on the East Coast, it is officially my birthday. 44 years young. How about that? That deserves a yes chant. Happy birthday, Uffman. Here's to at least 44 more. I hope you have a great birthday on what is officially now Thursday. Uffman always helping hold down the fort around here. Much appreciated. And we got more. Daniel Garcia looked like he was hesitating at first spot to me. Well, he may have looked like he was hesitating at first, but then again, he stomped Darby onto a chair. He he was kicking his ass, and he left with Shafir and Moxley. So that tells me that there wasn't a whole lot of hesitation there in joining the Death Riders there at the end. And Moore also says, have you ever checked out Don Callis's tweets? His tweets occasionally, I don't follow him, but his tweets occasionally pop up on my timeline, and he types in all caps, which is very annoying. Not quite as annoying as Ric Flair, where the first letter of every word is capitalized. For some reason, that annoys me more. But as far as like reading his tweets, occasionally if they happen to pop up on my timeline, I might. Yeah, you too can be part of the Green World Order, the GWO. You become a member of our little crew here when you become a channel member. So that's something you should get in on. Appreciate all my members. You guys are awesome. I was actually, for a little sneak peek, you are on the Legends tier. I was doing some work today on uploading the next retro classic episode of the Sound Off, picking up where I left off some time ago, because the first 13 episodes of the Sound Off that I ever did, 2007, 2008, those have been up there for Legends tier members. Episode 14 is coming your way soon, from February of 2008. It's like a time capsule. So keep your eyes peeled. I'll let you guys know once that's up and some of the other stuff I'm working on, but I appreciate it. If Garcia is joining the Dick Riders, does that mean Yuta may start winning matches? Well, I mean, the better question might be, who gives a shit? I too am more interested when it comes to the Takeshita's and the Fletchers of the world here in AEW. Bandito. I can't say that at the moment that those guys rank pretty high up on my list. Not high on my my list of interest. All right, next time I'm with you is going to be on Friday. We're going to be talking SmackDown. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre are wrestling on Friday night. We're going to get the return, I am sure, of Cody Rhodes to set up that match for WrestlePalooza. It'll probably be Cody and Drew for the championship. Tiffany is going to defend her WWE Women's title against Jade Cargill. And Brock Lesnar will hopefully give some sort of explanation as to why he's been doing what he's been doing. Because John Cena will not be on that show, but Brock will. What other possible purpose could there be for him to be there, if not offer some sort of explanation? So that is what we'll be talking about on Friday night. Dry Chicken says, pick your poison. Death Riders or House of Torture? Can you imagine if they combined the two? That would be the worst faction ever. Be like the Death Riders of Torture. Yeah, I mean, I'll poison myself. Like, I'm not going to pick. I'll poison myself without choosing. Oh, man. And the Juliet. WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. Yes, I tweeted, if you follow on Twitter, which you should be doing, I mentioned that earlier, and we will talk about that more later in the week as well. Nobody should be surprised by this. Not one person should be shocked. I do feel bad for all my listeners over there in the UK. Boy, John Cena, man, what a cock tease that was, huh? A couple years ago at Money in the Bank. And he got everybody all riled up. Make your voices heard if you want WrestleMania here in the UK. Man, they took their dick and they smacked it right across your face, didn't they? And poor New Orleans, too. They were supposed to get WrestleMania next year. And then it was literally, they had The Rock announce it on TV. Then they took it away from them. They said, here, we'll give you money in the bank next year. So I'm like, well, maybe they'll make up for it in 2027. Nope. You want WrestleMania back in New Orleans, which is what I was looking forward to. You're going to be waiting a while. Fuck that. We got Fox. I wish you were still doing gaming content. Enjoy those very much. I would like to. I just, time gets away and there's other things on the channel. And before you know it, it's like, man, it's been a while since I've been able to do one of those. But it's on the list of things I would like to do for sure. People tended to enjoy how terrible I generally was at these things. Have a nice laugh at my expense. At least. Does Jay White come back at All Out? Next challenger for Hangman? I mean, I'd like to see Jay White come back. I have absolutely no idea what his status is. Last I heard, which was not that long ago, was that we weren't going to see Jay White for a while. So no, I don't think we're going to see him there. I think he's still hurt and is going to be out for a while yet. Oh, we got Oz, the Wonderful Wizard. I don't watch The Fed. Haven't in 25 years, but I listen to the streams and the sound off. Is everything just based on legends and part-timer return pops? For the most part, yeah. More so, I feel like this year than maybe ever. There is a heavy reliance on, getting the moment, the pop. And also, you got to keep in mind now, they're booking for that Netflix reality series because they're bringing back that Unreal reality series. And so some of the shit that we're seeing is also designed to get footage for the reality show. So they're booking for that as well, not just the pop. But it does feel that way. It does feel like this year especially, they've been leaning very heavily into that. I love how he gets all of his Fed update. You could tell he hasn't watched in 25 years. He still calls it the Fed. Imagine if you were in a coma and you only first woke up this year, but you've been in a coma since 2001. You're like, what is WWE? What is that? And you still go around calling it the Fed. Arabian Night mentions Adam Cole. Yeah, I said that on TNT the other night. I said the terrible triad. Wardlow, Jay White, and Adam Cole. I mean, they've just been snake bitten. When it comes to the injuries and just the awful streak of luck that they've had. Jay White was another one. He was injured. He came back. He got injured again. Adam Cole. Terrible concussion. And then what happened to his ankle? I mean, he literally has a cadaver bone in his ankle. We're heading into Halloween. It's like he's got like a haunted ankle. And then this latest concussion, which could be career ending for him. And then the stuff with Wardlow, it's like it says the terrible triad. Find me 3 guys with worse luck. Moore says, have you seen WrestlePalooza only moving 10,000 tickets in a 17,000 capacity venue? The greed is getting to them. I don't think it's getting to them just yet, but the greed will get to them. The greed will be their downfall. The greed will absolutely be their downfall. This is not sustainable. This hot streak they've been on at the prices they charge for their tickets is not sustainable. They will crash back down to earth at some point. And the thing is, and I'll talk more about this on Sunday, but the thing is, the Mark Shapiros and the Ari Emanuels of TKO, they're not going to be damaged by it. They're not going to be the ones on the hot seat. It's going to be people like Levesque and Nick Khan. They're the ones that are going to be on the hot seat when that happens. Because when heads roll, it ain't going to be the heads at TKO. I can promise you that. And I don't think they're going to be very patient to wait for the turnaround to come. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but you can bet your ass it's going to come back to bite them at some point. Oz says it'll always be the Fed because fuck the Fed. It's interesting to know everything happening about dozens of wrestlers I've never seen wrestle even once. You've never seen Rhea Ripley wrestle, huh? This fascinates me. West Coast James, 51 months. He's a legend. There he is, Sound Off legend. I must have started watching The Fed when Oz stopped watching The Fed. Year 2000. Man, look at this. Wrestling's a weird thing where you never really get out of it, right? You might stop watching like week to week, but you'd be surprised how many wrestling fans I hear from over the years who send emails to me and tweets saying, I don't watch anymore. I don't watch WWE, or I never got into AEW, but I listen to every Sound Off, because they want to follow with what's going on. Like they can't completely pull themselves away. Or maybe they just love the Sound Off that much that they don't really give a shit as long as I'm talking about something. But they just don't watch anymore. There's a lot of people who don't watch anymore because it's either there's too much of it, they feel like they can't keep up with all the content, or it's too expensive, or it's fucking boring. But they do want to keep up with what's going on, who's the big star and what's the big story in wrestling. And maybe they'll check out some YouTube clips, but like that's the extent of it. There's a lot of people out there like that. And I'll tell you what TKO, we were just talking about TKO pricing people out of these shows. You're going to have more fans like that. It's going to get worse. Where certain people are just going to drop off, or maybe they just find the product to be boring and just not very interesting. But they'll probably still listen, I would hope. Many of them, not all of them, will still listen, and they'll keep up with wrestling through podcasts, and YouTube channels like this one. So as long as you stick with me, I got you covered. Dried Chicken says, Mariska Hargitay is a beautiful actress. She's always been beautiful. She's a beautiful woman. And Oz says TK will be buying WWE via TKO bankruptcy trustee. Well, that's not going to happen. That won't happen. He says, I've never seen Cena wrestle. Lesnar, Rhea, Seth, Roman had never seen a single CM Punk move until he returned to AEW. When Vince McMahon killed WCW, I was done. Well, I got news for you. WCW killed WCW more than Vince McMahon killed WCW. But he did kill it once he bought it. Then he killed it off. But like the original ECW, they did more to kill themselves than anything Vince McMahon did. Calling it WWE completely lost that wrestling aura. Well, the word wrestling is still in it. If it wasn't because I hang out with my best bud and eat junk food watching the pay-per-views and PLEs, I would not be watching wrestling. See? Bret Hart agrees. Mariska is great, but she's no Jennifer Love Hewitt. Also a beautiful woman, but there's something about Mariska, man. Especially in those early seasons of SVU. Oh my God, she was just so attractive. And just also, like, if you ever like watch interviews with her, she just seems like a fun person, good sense of humor. Yeah, I've always been a fan of hers. Blame the Panda people for it being called WWE. No, you can blame Vince McMahon for that. They had an agreement with the World Wildlife Fund, the Panda people, that they clearly violated. This is something that people just sort of gloss over. It's like, oh, it's the pandas, those damn pandas. It's like, actually, Vince and WWF at the time clearly violated the agreement and the understanding that they had. So, not the first time he's violated something. Anyway, I will be back with you on Friday. We fell short of our Be the Booker goal. This has been something that's happened here on Wednesdays a few times. It's all up to you guys. I'm sure we won't have that issue on Friday. I hope we'll try again on Friday. Talking SmackDown, and then of course this weekend, episode 929 of the Sound Off. Always have content for you. Emperor Comet says Kristen Melody is my celeb crush. I don't think I've seen her. And Dried Chicken, would you love to see CM Punk do a drop coffin? I don't know what that is. I'm going to say no. It sounds like something that he would get injured doing. So at 48 years old or 46, whatever he is, I'm going to say no. Probably better to not do that. All right. Hit that like button on your way out. It still helps the video, even though we didn't hit the goal. And back here with you on Friday for SmackDown. Until then, take care, guys.